Warning: the content you are about to see is my opinion on certain topics. I do not want to offend anyone in any way. If you feel offended or do not like what I say, you should turn off the video. I will have no filter, so I'm warning you now. Viewer discretion is advised. I hope you enjoy.
All right, ready. All right. What's up? What's up? What's up? This your boy Big Rob, aka Rob the Poet, and we're back with another episode of Open Your Mind. This is the show or the podcast where I talk about stuff from my point of view. You're not going to always agree with what I say, but I just want you to listen with an open mind. So, and sometimes I have guests on. Like today, I have my friend, my former coworker, my friend Savannah. How you doing, Savannah?
Hi, I'm good.
Today we're going to be talking about the power of the tongue. Basically, what you say can have positive and negative effects, and that what you say is just very powerful. And no matter if you're a public figure, you're in the eye, or if you're just a person like one of us, what you say to people can shape how you feel about that person, how a person feel about themselves, and different stuff like that. But first off, just how powerful is the tongue? How powerful is the tongue, Savannah?
Honestly, I think the tongue is like one of our most powerful weapons. Like, I think you've got like physical violence, but I think for me, I think the tongue is more detrimental. Like, I feel like what you say in negative cases leaves a worse effect on people than it is what you do exactly. I mean, I
Definitely.
know in a lot of cases we're all like, well, your actions speak louder than words. But a lot of times that tongue will scar you
It,
because that's kind of something that sticks with you for life. I feel like you can heal from like a physical bruise, but anything that's said to you that affects your mental, that's your mind, like that sticks with you. It really changes a person.
especially too, because some people don't know that how a person is already handling, their self esteem, like their mental capability. So if you you tell somebody like, hey, you're ugly or something like that, you don't think that, oh, it's just a simple like, you tell them ugly, but you don't know that person's like inner, their what they're thinking about themselves, and stuff like that, and some that can really tear somebody down. Like we really got to be careful about what we say to people because you, like you said, you never know what somebody is thinking, what somebody is feeling, and the simplest of words can cause somebody to go from here to down here in a matter of seconds. So I look at it. I was thinking about this, like the MLK speech. Like, Martin Luther King, he knew what he was. He wanted his words to mean something and stuff like that. And I think when he was doing the initial speech, of bringing equality and stuff like that, I don't think he really realized. I mean, he wanted it to be, but I don't think he realized that his words, like that speech, kind of shaped of what America it kind of is today. Because what I think without him saying that speech, we would not have black and whites would still be segregated. He kind of started that segregation because I think shortly after that speech, states started ending segregation and different stuff like that. So I think what you say has a positive and a negative effect, and you really just got to be careful what you say because you never know. I think I put it more so on the people that you're speaking to because, like you said, it's the intent of what you say is just as powerful as what you say because, like you said, I may call you ugly. That's not really saying that. That's just some grade school. Oh, you're ugly, this and that. But if somebody really believes that they're ugly, or somebody really believes that they're fat or this and that, that's gonna mess with their mind 10 times. As more as somebody saying that, going into detail like you're ugly because your eyes are spaced apart or your mouth is big, stuff like that. So, but what are some positive effects of the tongue? Like when you say something, like what are some ways that it can be positive?
I think positively, like you've got like words of affirmation, you've got good, like critical feedback, things, encouragement. Like, for instance, when somebody's feeling down or something and you offer, like, get up, it's okay, some positive reinforcement. I think anything that we say that's constructive, but constructive positively, I
Hmm.
think has a more positive effect than, everything else. I know for me, a lot of times, I personally like to hear things that people say, um, because, like I said, they just stick with you.
Hmm.
Like, you kind of replay that over and over and over in your head, whether it's been through text or it was said verbally. It's just something that once it's inside, it's like an energy thing. Once it's inside your mental, like, that's there. And
Hmm.
so it's like you either put that back out into the universe positively, or it really messes you up in the head. But I think, honestly, anything I think that we say that's meant to like uplift somebody, keep somebody up, be positive, I think is where I like the tongue. And I'm
Hmm.
like, well, I think this is a really powerful weapon, but it's a little terrifying. You really have to know how to use it.
No, definitely, definitely. Whoa, why is there echo? Oh, okay. So what is one thing that somebody said to you that's kind of stuck with you, like it kind of affected you positively?
Um, One thing that's really stuck with me was, I feel like I've had a lot of people say this and I used to beat myself up on it, but was that a lot of people felt that I was just really transparent and just naturally like a good person, like within the things that I do, the energy that I put out. People have always just been really encouraging and uplifting me and saying that, the things that I do are motivational and that people feel like, you can really come to me and open up and be yourself. Like, it's like I've just been a very inviting person, which me personally, I always felt like I've been really closed off and very antisocial. So whenever I hear things like that, that always makes me feel good inside, because I'm just like, I know a lot of times I'm not trying to be that kind of person. I kind of
Hmm.
like being closed off. But the fact that people are telling me that they really feel as though I'm not, and I am just, I bring really good energy and a good person to be around, that makes me feel really good inside. So it kind of helps me keep going every day.
It's funny you said that because I feel the same way because I'm the type of person, you know me too. I'm the type of person that I don't tell a lot about myself. So, I feel like I've always been like the shy, like the closed off person. So, when people come to me and say, asking for advice and stuff like that, I give them like not necessarily from my point of view, but just of like the aspect of like, overall general aspect. So a lot of people always, tell me that I'm inviting, I give them words of encouragement and I don't make it, I don't try to use my own, examples or my own stuff that I've been through to help them. It's just kind of like I'm a people watcher, so I can kind of take other people's um, situations and stuff like that and kind of generalize an answer for them. And so they always tell me that I'm inviting. So that always lifts me up because, like you said, I've always been the type of person like always been to myself. So people have never been the type to approach me, but lately when people start approaching me, ask me this, ask me that, I just give them general advice. There's like, I appreciate that. You're not judging. You're not judging me and stuff like that. And so, which I'm not a judgmental person. Which
Mm.
when people tell me that I don't judge them and I I say stuff like with open mind. Is what this podcast is called. It always makes me feel good because I feel like people in the world need to be less judgmental because I think that is what shapes the world.
Mm.
Um, besides the what people say. I think judgmental people is what kind of makes people, which kind of makes the world, good or bad and stuff like that. So, I like that a lot. So, what are some negative effects of the power tone? For one example that I bring up is, remember when Kanye was saying that slavery was a choice?
Mm.
Now, he got so much backlash for that. He was not, when you look at the interview, the whole interview or not the interview, the whole TMZ video when he was talking to that one employee, he was kind of basically get dialogue like, I didn't mean it like, like saying that, we had a choice to be slaves or not. He was saying that people, the old, whatever he was saying, but the employee was talking to him was like, nah, it's, I don't understand what you're saying, but like when they really broke it down and had that conversation, it's like, okay, well, you didn't mean it like this, but it's the way that you said it, and he got so much backlash and stuff like that. So, what are some negative effects of what you say?
In my personal experience over the past year or so, I've learned that I do have a tendency to say things sometimes that I don't mean to have like a negative connotation, but the way that people perceive them can sometimes be a little rude and it's a little negative. And I do take accountability for those instances. I know sometimes I'll jokingly say something that comes off as like a harsh judgment, but it's not really meant to.
Mm-hmm.
It's the delivery. Like the delivery is very off, or that sometimes I'll say things that is just be very brutally honest, but everybody's level of like understanding is very different. So
Mm-hmm.
I know I may have had good intentions in what I said, but it didn't, they didn't perceive it that way. That person really couldn't handle it that way. So I should have approached the situation a little different. But that's definitely something I've had to learn in my personal experience, is just that sometimes I did say things that I really wasn't thinking about in that moment. But then when you go back to it, I was like, okay, that was really rude.
Mm-hmm.
So then I find myself having to like apologize and make up for it. I mean, even though these same people also know that that's not my character and my intentions have always been pure, so I'm not meaning to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
But the things that we say a lot of times do hurt people. And we just don't realize it until we end up in a situation where now it's back in your face and you're like, oh shit,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But I think for me, I know you were saying you weren't really a judgmental person. I've never really seen myself as a really judgmental person, but I do know that I have had instances in which I have passed some judgment. Um, a lot of times I always thought my judgment was just critical feedback, but when you really look at it, it wasn't. It was really me looking at a person and saying, okay, I felt some type of way about it.
Mm-hmm.
But rather than kind of like putting myself in that person's shoes and saying like, okay, well, I understand why you feel that way that you do, or you move the way that you do. That's you as a person. It may not agree with what I see for myself, but this is what makes you you. And instead of me just being positive and encouraging in that aspect, I kind of passed a little judgment because it didn't match with what I saw for myself.
Definitely. And so that's why I've never been such a judgmental person, because, like I said, I've been the person who's been judged pretty much my whole life, and so I know that there's more to a person than what's on the surface and stuff like that. So when I say stuff, I really think about what I say, because, like I said, I've been that person. I've always projected or had this persona that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. So I always live my life like I don't care what you say and stuff like that. But deep down, like sometimes that stuff, especially what they say and then the way they say it, kind of like it hits you a little bit different. So that brings me to the next thing, like saying stuff the right way. Like I think people really gotta, when they're conversating, or like especially if they're in an argument or something like that, I think they really got to think about what they're saying, because you may say something, you may say something mean because you want to say something mean, but sometimes you say something that you don't understand that it's the wrong way of saying it. So saying things the correct way, I think, is very important, because, like you said, there's other ways to tell people something about themselves, or just tell somebody something, in an argument or something, without that other person like really being hard on themselves. Like, like I said, when I was talking about calling somebody ugly or fat, like, don't necessarily go to the haymaker right away. Kind of say something. I know it's an argument, it's a heat in the moment, but like we really got to think about what we're saying and the way we say it, because I think the intent is the most important thing about that. What do you feel?
I mean, I agree. I feel like we really do have to think about what it is that we say. I mean, I know in a lot of cases you're on the spot, so it's a lot harder to just sit and really be able to think about what we said. But I think a lot of times we as people, when you know you've said something that maybe you shouldn't have said or it came off a little wrong, you kind of know that instantly in a lot
Hmm.
of cases. And I feel like where we go wrong as a society is instead of correcting it in that moment, we just think, oh, okay, maybe they won't take it that way. So well, let's just keep rolling. And
Hmm.
then what happens is you come back later and now you've got a new situation because you chose not to correct it or further explain what it is that you were trying to say. Like in the Kanye thing, where I feel like sometimes we say things without realizing that the people are not in our minds. So just because we said it, they don't really know all the time what we meant by that.
Hmm.
So sometimes you really have to break things down for people to really understand, like, okay, no, I wasn't really trying to be ignorant. Like I was just saying like this, and this is why I said that. Then it kind of helps people get a better understanding into your mind and the way that your mind works. Because a lot of times people just go misunderstood and they misinterpret the things that we say, and then we end up in situations and it's like,
Hmm.
well, that's not really what was supposed to happen or what I even meant, but because I said it. And the other thing too, I will say that I think oftentimes if we don't understand what a person says, um instead of just like, I feel like, making up our own narrative behind it, we need to speak on that. Like, okay,
Hmm.
well, what do you mean by that? Like asking that person before we go ahead and start passing judgment saying, oh, okay, well, what you said was rude or it was really ignorant. And it's like a lot of cases, it wasn't. You just didn't tell me that you didn't understand where I was coming from. I just assumed that you did know because you didn't say anything. And so I think we also need to speak up on the receiving end because it saves everybody heartache. Like just speak up. If you didn't hear where I'm coming from or you felt that something I said came off the wrong way, but you knew that that wasn't the kind of person I was, okay, cool. Let me know in that moment. Don't walk away from the situation and then come back and try to rebuild on it because then you created a whole fire when we could have corrected it back then.
Exactly. I'm glad you said that because I was actually going to talk about that next. Like miscommunication, like when a conversation is had, like miscommunication is the biggest thing when it comes when we're talking about how powerful somebody what how powerful what somebody can say, because like you said, it's on me because I'm the person that said this and that about you, but like on the receiving end, if you're not understanding what I'm saying, or if you're not or you think that I'm coming at you in a certain type of way, you got to know me. You know me, like when I say something, like I'm not trying to be malicious or anything like that. But if that's the way you're taking it, sometimes that's not really on the person saying it as it is on the person receiving it. I think too, people got to do better about really explaining and really listening on what people are saying. So, like you said, if you don't understand what I'm saying, don't just leave the situation like, oh, okay, he called me this, and this, and so I'm in my feelings, and I'm about to go do this and this because of what he said. Really have dialogue because, like I said, I may have not meant that. It's like it's the heat of the moment. People should be thinking, but I'm not thinking when I'm mad at you. I'm cutthroat. I'm trying to cut you very deep, and stuff like that. So um, before you leave a situation, before you leave a conversation, something like that, make sure you understand the whole dialogue of the conversation and what the situation is, because you don't want to be, especially if you already have low self-esteem, like you don't want to go, go off and do something crazy, like, try to hurt yourself because of what I said when like me very well, or even if you don't know the person, make sure you know what's going on before you leave, because you hurting yourself is going to hurt more people than what you know. So I know I didn't bring this up earlier, but I want to talk about suicide real quick, because that kind of connects to this topic as well, because a lot of people commit suicide is from the effects of what people have said to them or what people have done to them. What is kind of your quick take on suicide?
Um, I kind of have my own personal experience with it. I will say that there was a time many, many, many years ago where I felt like that was kind of what I needed to do to get over things that have been said to me. I didn't really know how to channel it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've also tried to pride myself in like trying to pay attention to what it is that I say and understanding that we live in a sensitive society.
Definitely.
So like every little thing you do, little thing you say, especially to a person that's down and out, like
Mm-hmm.
I try to be very careful about what I say. Um, because I don't know, I won't necessarily say that I felt like if I did say something that somebody may have taken the wrong way and they did choose to end their life behind something I said or something somebody said, I know it would eat me inside. Like I would really feel like it was my fault. I really would. But at the same time, I feel like my mom always taught me that, sticks and stones will break your bones. Just like
Mm-hmm.
you said, like sometimes you got to be stronger than your feelings. And I know that's easy said than done, but I think I think the effects of suicide come from being hurt by like the people that mean the most to you. And it's like
Exactly.
repetitive. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm constantly over and over and over and over being beat up and broken down by these people. And these are the people that were put here to help me. And instead, they are hurting me. And so it's like, yeah, you kind of feel like, well, if you can't help pull me out of where I am, well, let me hurt you back by
Mm-hmm.
doing this, is one of those kind of things. And I mean, and I understand it's like you want that escape to get away from the harsh reality. Like I understand it personally. Do I believe in taking your life because somebody just didn't agree with you or they didn't like you or they felt indifferent? No, I don't. I feel like everybody deserves a chance at this life. But I feel like again, we do have to watch the things we say. We can't kick people when they're down.
No, definitely not.
Should always be moving with the intention of building somebody up, whether they're down and out or they doing just fine. Like we really have to be careful because especially when people are in that sensitive moment in their life, it's like, bro, they're like knives.
Exactly.
The words are like knives and they will shatter you.
I'm glad you said that because I've been saying that for a while now that the world is sensitive and it's not necessarily in a good way or a bad way, but we are sensitive and a lot of people don't realize of how sensitive that they are, and I think that has something to do with kind of growing up, like you said, when with people who commit suicide, it's from people that they love the most, and it's like a repetition thing. And so I think that started from when they're young, and it's kind of get old, as they get older and older, and it's people that's constantly hurting them and constantly hurting them, and then they feel like they don't belong on this earth, which is not necessarily the case. And so, like I said, going back to our original topic of just how powerful the tongue is, like we really got to pay attention about what we saying to people, because we might catch that wrong person on the wrong day when they're just already at their lowest, and the smallest thing set them off. And then when you find out that person commits suicide, and you find out that, especially if you're the last person to talk to that person, oh, you definitely will have so much guilt. You would just feel like, dang, like what I say, I didn't say nothing that bad. Like that's the people's first thought. Like, I didn't say nothing that bad. You don't know if you said anything that bad because you don't know the mentality of that person that you're talking to. Like, people keep their emotions so bottled up, is what's the hardest thing to believe, because once somebody says that last little thing, that bottle just opens up, and they start to spiral out of control. And so, like I said, really watch what you say, really pay attention what you say. I know if you're in the middle of an argument, this is not going to come up, but just think about to yourself how bad you would feel if the last thing you said to somebody was an insult or something bad like that, and you found out that person died from taking their own life.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna feel horrible. So really think about what you're saying, because you don't know the mentality. You don't know what people are thinking. And I think that's the most important thing in life is, one, what you say can affect the person, and then the intent too is the intent of how you say something can really affect somebody. So just it's hard to say, it's hard to tell people just be kind, because you know there are unkind people, but I feel like suicide has risen a lot, and I don't have these specific numbers, but I feel like, you know, suicide has risen a lot, and that's because of what people are saying. So just kind of make sure you're being kind to people, and really watch what you say. You have any last thoughts about anything, Savannah?
No, I was gonna say I think the other thing is once you realize like just how bad and just how powerful, that tongue is. I think the other thing we have to work on as a society is accountability. And not just accountability, but also forgiveness in that accountability, and knowing that once a person has admitted their wrongs and they've made a step in trying to correct any damage
Mm-hmm.
that's done, it's an understanding like, okay, well, this person is trying to move past it. Don't let me be the person to like hold that person back. We can't. I think we do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've had my bad share of like um doing some damage with some things that I said unintentionally without knowing it in that moment, but also when you feel like, you're ready to move past it and correct those things, people are not receptive to that. It's like they
Mm-hmm.
say, oh, okay, well, you need to do better, grow from your mistakes. But it's kind of hard to grow from your mistakes when the people who you made the mistake with are holding you back, kind of thing. They won't forgive you, but yet they're constantly reminding you about what it is that you did wrong. And that is harsh on a person. Like, I feel like once a person has already made their peace with something they did, don't keep bringing that up. And I had that conversation with somebody the other week. It was just about you can't keep doing that to people.
Mm-hmm.
You can't expect a person to be able to grow if you're constantly refueling a fire that's already been put out. Like, you can't do that. Like, it's like if a person's trying to move past it and you can see that a person is trying, allow them to try, okay? Because I feel like we're human. Every single person makes a mistake. And you knew for a fact that that person's intentions were not ill-minded,
Mm-hmm.
but allow them to move past that so that they can do better. But if you can't do that, then it's like you also make the conversation not worth having either. And you are also, that makes you kind of like a bad person, because it's like, well, you won't move on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you won't forgive that person so that you can move on. So instead, people want to shut out and end relationships and do, whether it be friendships, whatever. Like, I feel like people always want the worst, and they create the worst out of a situation that really was not that deep. And you had a person that was trying to do better, you know. And like I said, I just think we really just have to, once you learn how to take that accountability, that's great, because you went in the right step to try to do better. But it's like, it's also good to have people in your circle that are like, oh, okay, well, I know you went wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and but how can we come back from that? Like, I feel like sometimes people don't know how to correct or like control their tongue.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you got to be that friend to help those people do that. Like, I don't know, we don't do that enough.
No, we don't.
We
And
don't
it's
do
crazy.
our
It's
actions enough.
100%. It's crazy that you said that, because I think accountability is the first step of like growing as a person. And it's crazy that you said that, because I was in, not necessarily I was in a situation, but I have a situation where a family member, they done something when they were younger, and then they kind of took accountability, like, yeah, I was young, I wasn't really thinking and stuff like that. But then you have other family members who continue to talk about it, continue to bring it up, and then it's like they're thinking in their head like, dang, what I did was that bad. And in all actuality, it wasn't really that bad. They were young at the time, but when you keep, like you said, keep throwing fuel on the fire, you keep bringing it up year after year, and it's been 10 years, 8 years, or whatever it is, like, somebody cannot grow from that, because you're not grown, you haven't got over that. So once a person take the accountability for something, they say, my fault, I was bugging, this definitely was on me, I need to try to take the steps to do better, then us as family members or friends, we need to be like, okay, we was waiting on you to take the accountability. Once you have taken that accountability, I can let it go. We just need you to grow as a person and stuff like that. And so I think holding somebody back like that, not letting them grow because of a mistake they made is crazy, because I'm a person that has made a lot of mistakes in my life, but they were when I was younger. I didn't know no better and stuff like that. And so as I got older and I kind of really understood life and understood myself, I'm kind of like, dang, I used to do that, or I did this. And like, I don't do that anymore, but like I've grown as a person. And I think when people get older, they understand life better. When you're young, you don't understand. You just want to do something because, oh, I wonder what it's like to do this. As you get older, you learn like you can't do this. So taking accountability, I think making mistakes is important, because I think that's how you learn. Because if you never made a mistake, then you're never going to learn that lesson. So I think making mistakes and taking accountability is important. But if we talk about this, we're going to go on for another hour, because this is another great topic as well. But do you have any lastly closing words about anything else, Savannah?
No, I don't. I mean, I think it was a good conversation. I think everything that needed to be said was said. And that's
Definitely.
that. I mean, we really we got to control that thing.
Definitely, because your mouth is going to get, like my mom used to tell me, your mouth is going to get you in trouble. And
It does.
in some cases, it do get you in trouble. You just don't realize it yet. But anyway, that's another episode of Open Your Mind. I really hope that you listen to this episode. Really open your mind when you listen to it. Don't have any prejudgments. You may not agree with what was said, but listen with an open mind, because everybody has their right to their own opinion. So this is Big Rob, aka Rob the Poet. You got Savannah, and we out for today. Appreciate y'all for listening.
Peace.